Welcome to Haunt Weekly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Haunt Weekly, a weekly podcast, the haunted attraction and entertainment community. Whether you're an actor, owner, or just plain aficionado, we aim to be a podcast for you. And we return to you this week with another topic that was, at least in this case, inspired by a listener.
Yes.
We really do love all of your topic suggestions, so please do keep them coming in, even when we're not expressly asking for them. So please do keep them coming in. But yes, this week we're talking about the missing middle of haunting.
Yeah. That's fair.
and we're going to get into why we're talking about that in a minute. But please, if you have an idea for a topic, we've done 335 of these things, haven't we? We're doing. But I know we ain't talked about everything. Please take a minute. Let us know your ideas. HauntWeekly.com, HauntWeekly on Twitter, HauntWeekly on Facebook, YouTube.com/HauntWeekly is the YouTube channel. And of course, you can always find us wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, all the fine places. All right. So I may have hinted in that intro that we ask questions on a regular, recurring basis, like almost weekly.
Yeah, almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
Very nearly weekly. Kind of like the podcast itself.
Uh-huh.
And last week we had a great question and got a lot of neat responses to it. The question was, what and where was your first haunted house? And I meant visit, so I clarified it on the site. But hey, somebody else started, your first haunt visit was actually working in a haunt. Mm-hmm. So, kudos to you two that the questions overlap. But anyways, we got a lot of great answers. Keone Hutton said the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland was technically her first. Mm-hmm. And I think that's their first. So I think that's gonna be an experience a lot of people share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably.
Because it's not just Disneyland, like Disney World has one, and I'm pretty sure all the other Disney theme parks have their own take on it. So yeah, pretty common.
Sam Farrell said the Haunted Inn Hotel Dark Ride at the Myrtle Beach Pavilion.
Yeah, and I think Sam and I might have a common memory here. Mm-hmm. Because I definitely spent a lot of time at the Pavilion of Myrtle Beach. Rest in peace, Pavilion. I agree, Sam.
Yeah.
One of the great tragedies of Myrtle Beach is how all the stuff that made it in Myrtle Beach isn't there anymore, and it's all being replaced by not touristy. I don't even want to say that because the Pavilion was touristy as fuck, but it was like they're touristy.
Yeah.
It's like over-commercialized shit. It's like, you get like the Ripley's Believe It or Not stuff and all that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's a bizarre, but yeah, I did go to that too. And I've said before on this podcast, I don't remember when my first haunt was. I know I went to one with my grandparents and my aunt at a Tri-County State Fair. Went to a JC haunt they were putting on there. I know I went to a one-person show in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I know I went to that as well because he posted the photo with the answer, and I immediately, oh yeah, that fucker. So there you go. Tim Fowler had one that was interesting. Shaky's Pizza Place. He must be Californian. More than 30 years ago, it was a black plastic and black light, but it got him hooked. And you know what? That is a good way to start. And here's the thing. This is a weird coincidence. Ellie and I were just talking about Shaky's Pizza not this past Friday, but the Friday before.
Okay.
Because we were at a local restaurant called The Wabbit, basically. Cafe 619, Home of The Wabbit, or whatever. It's got a stupid name. But it's a fine place to eat lunch every once in a while. But they had photos of a Shaky's Pizza in the room we were sitting in. And there are no Shakys in New Orleans. There's no Shakys in South Carolina. I've never physically laid eyes on a Shaky's Pizza. That's what I'm saying. And we started talking about it, and she's like, oh, I remember Shaky's. And that's because she lived a significant amount of time in California, in L.A. particularly, both growing up and as an adult. So, of course, she remembers it, and that got us talking about what the fuck a Shaky's Pizza was.
All right. Moving on.
Yeah, please.
Brian Barnes said elementary school during Harvest Festival. Now, I did go to several of these, like the older kids would do the haunted bus or
The
you know,
haunted trail through the
maze
Yep.
made out of, plastic bags and things. So that was fun. So that's often a first memory too.
Kevin Hopkins said the Moore Oklahoma Community Center put one on. Another pretty common story.
Mm-hmm. Nick Palmer, Frontier City at Six Flags and
OKC, Oklahoma City. Yeah. So some Oklahoma stuff here. Mm-hmm. I just realized I've never been to a haunted attraction inside of Six Flags. And I've been to Six Flags over Georgia at least twice. I don't know if they even have one.
So I didn't. So one of my memories, it wasn't a Six Flags, but it was Hanna-Barbera Land up near Dallas.
It was Astro World or whatever it was.
It was Hanna-Barbera Land.
Okay.
It was themed. I remember because it's not there anymore. But they had like this kids haunted house that you had to like crawl over a rope, and then they had a room that was upside down, and I've always wanted to do a room that was upside down just because as a kid going through there without my parents, because parents weren't allowed in this, which made it cool.
Oh wow, yeah. That we talked about age limits last episode. This is flipping the script on that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll let the kids in, but we're not letting the adults in.
Yeah, exactly. It was interesting because I'm sure that the parents had an observation area, but it didn't have like actors scaring you. It was just like a bizarro land.
I could still be fun, like a little fun house type thing with some scarier elements. Fun. And finally, Halloween Haunts 365 said Maury's Pier in Wildwood, New Jersey had a small container haunt. I have heard so many good things about various haunted attractions, especially year-round or tourist seasonal ones, on piers. Mm-hmm. And I've never been to one. The closest we've done to that is the one we went to in Galveston. Yeah. That was very much on the island.
Yeah.
Not on any of the piers. Now, we went to the theme park on the pier.
Mm-hmm. But it did not have a haunted house.
No, it did not. It had a very interesting roller coaster, though.
It was so much fun.
It was an incredibly fun roller coaster, and it fit in, like, no space.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they built that so compact.
I love roller coasters.
I do too.
I really
and that's one of the things, now that we're hopefully coming out the other side. I'm not going wood, some wood. I'm knocking on wood. Yeah. We're coming on the other side of this COVID shit. I'm looking forward to hopefully hitting a theme park at some point. Yeah. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
It would.
But anyways, that leads us to this week's question of the week. What was it specifically that inspired you to become a haunter? Was it a haunt you saw that you just went, wow, I've got to do this? Was it helping your dad scare people in the yard? Mm-hmm. Which was my thing. That's how I got into it. What was it? I mean, I have to blame my love for haunting largely on my dad. Mm-hmm. Because when I got too old, I resisted aging out of trick-or-treating so hard because I'd always loved Halloween. Halloween was always a much more fun holiday than Christmas for me. Christmas, you got the presents. Halloween, you got the fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Christmas isn't fun other than the presents.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think for me, it was encouragement from my dad to be weird and to, whenever I had unusual thoughts as a kid of how to scare people, it was not discouraged or not said, that's really strange of you to say. It wasn't anything like that. So we would sit there and we would brainstorm ideas, 5-6-year-olds, little me with dad talking about how we wanted to scare people.
Yeah, so what inspired...
We never got to.
What inspired you to become a haunter? Please post your answers. HauntWeekly.com, HauntWeekly on Twitter, HauntWeekly on Facebook, and YouTube.com/HauntWeekly. We read all the comments and we read all of the stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And oddly enough, last week's question, even though we didn't plan this, does kind of tie neatly into this week's topic. Mm-hmm. But first things first, we have to give a big thanks to Davey and Neville at Rise Haunted House, nearby Tickfall, Louisiana. On Saturday, we, along with Alex Berlin, who's been on the show.
Friday night.
Friday night.
Yeah, it was Friday after work.
Yeah, it was Friday after work, you're right.
Yes, but thank you also to Alex Berlin from Conjure Media for setting up the tour for us. and letting us come along.
I want to say I felt bad for keeping them so late.
Yeah.
Because they had already pushed back the time because they wanted us there. I mean, everybody wanted us there apparently. And they were going to do it at 5, but you have work. So the earliest we could get there was around 7:30, realistically.
Yeah, I didn't leave work until 5:20 and got home like 6.
And then we basically turned around and bounced.
Yeah.
And then we got stuck in horrible, horrible traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a relatively minor accident, but it was just at the exact wrong spot of the interstate.
Yes. When your GPS tells you there's 20 minutes of traffic for the next half mile, it's not a good sign.
Yeah, and it told us to take an alternate route while we were in the left-hand lane about to approach that exit, and it's like 6 lanes over. It's like the widest stretch of the interstate in New Orleans. And even if we'd had, been able to fully grok what was going on, which we didn't, but even if we'd been able to, I don't know if we could have done it. I really don't. So we were late even though we left early. And we thank them so much for taking the time. And really, we were there for 2.5 hours pretty much on this tour. But his enthusiasm comes through in everything. And that's one of the things I love about Davey is if you're feeling uninspired or lazy about haunting, just not feeling the vibe, let him talk to you for about 2 hours about the various projects he has going on. And it's very much like when a kid tells you about dinosaurs. It's that level of excitement.
Yes.
And it's so cool if someone has that about haunting to get that buzz. It's so cool. But we got a little bit of our inspiration back, and we saw a ton of amazing things and heard all about his batshit insane plans that we are keeping to ourselves because we want him to have his secrets.
Well, and we want to have them on when they're ready to talk about them.
Yeah. But he has got some incredible things in the oven, and he has a lot of room to do it in.
Yes, they do.
They got a lot of room. Oh, man. So, it was just nice. Stay tuned for huge changes. And, I'm looking forward to 2022, hopefully being, for us, a normal haunt season.
I hope so.
It'd be nice. All right, now we get to the main topic of the week, and that, of course, is the missing middle of haunting. And now we want to give credit to Kevin Hopkins. He answered the question 2 weeks ago when we asked, what questions do you have for us? 2 or 3 weeks ago now, I can't remember. Anyways, and he had a very good one. What is a void you see in the market? And he was specifically talking about haunt vendors, mostly, but he also was curious about haunts not serving the haunt community, or the haunt goers, too. And we started talking about the idea. We've actually started it multiple times because it is a fascinating question. But we realized, we don't really know enough about the vendors to offer much advice there, though we do have one thought on that at the end. So if you hang on, Kevin, there will be some talk about vendors and what we might need to see more of. But we didn't really know enough about the vendors to speak intelligently on it, so we'd have to get someone else who did know. And the people who do know may not want to talk about who they are not serving. Right. We ran into that roadblock. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a tickle in my throat today, so I'll do my best to not be distracting. But it did get us, though, thinking about the voids we're seeing in the industry. And we basically realized, the main void we see is the missing middle tier in haunting. So that's what we're talking about. I'm not sure if this is directly answering your question, Kevin, but you definitely inspired this topic. And credit where it's due, this is your fault.
And just on a side note, check out episode 125 for haunt consolidation.
Where we cover a lot of the same ground, but I think this one we're looking at it for the opposite perspective in a weird way.
Yeah.
About what's being left behind rather than where things are going. So here's the thing. Most haunted attractions these days can be described in one of 2 ways. Very large, very expensive, very evil, mega haunts. No, but very large, very expensive mega haunts. Ticket prices for these are generally well north of $30, and I think I could bump that number up some.
Possibly this year. Yeah.
Because a lot of them, especially if they have multiple attractions, a complete ticket can run $50, $60. These are expensive things to go to, especially if you're bringing a family. Yeah. They're expensive to visit, but they're also equally, if not more expensive to operate.
Yeah, because they have a ton of actors, hundreds of actors and staff, who work for them, and they've got to pay all of them.
Yeah.
So that's why the ticket prices are higher. Not to mention they probably invested more.
Yeah.
They probably invested more in animatronics and scenes and things like that.
Yeah. And they often are put out in far-flung places away from civilization because they need space.
Mm-hmm.
And it is much easier to get space when you're not in an urban or a living center, basically. So these are haunts where you often have to drive. There are exceptions, like 13th Gate is very much in the heart of downtown Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Like, amazingly so.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Netherworld's new location, but their last location was in a town.
But it was also...
Not downtown Atlanta.
No, but it was also in a very commercial district.
Yeah.
I guess we would say. There weren't a lot of houses nearby.
Yeah, and they wound up moving because they needed more space.
Yeah, and apparently there was some fuckery with the people that actually owned the land, too.
Yeah.
I'd heard something about that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I heard wrong. But either way, they chose to move, and I think, and they probably also wanted to build something themselves, which honestly is such a smart fucking move. Like, if you have the option of buying land and building a custom build for your haunt, I absolutely would jump on that option if it is financially viable. Just because, as we've seen it like Hell's Gate, that frees you up to do so many cool things.
Yeah.
That you cannot do in any kind of existing structure.
Yeah, there was a piece of land that I would have loved to have had if we had, $1.2 million to buy it. Instead, there's a hotel there now. Instead of, a giant haunted house complex.
Which, honestly, is probably better use for the space. Let's be realistic.
All right.
Well, I mean, as far as what's going to get the city and the parish more tax revenue, I'm pretty sure that the hotel has both got a higher tax rate and much higher revenue. But yeah, we didn't have 1.2 million anyway.
No.
So this is all beyond pipe dream shit here.
Yeah, I know.
That is about 6 figures over our budget.
Yeah.
That's 5 figures over at least.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, these are expensive haunts. They're expensive to run. They're expensive to go to. They usually are fairly large events that require the entirety of the night. As we're seeing more and more of these haunts pushing additional attractions, which is good. And then you have these small home/charity haunts.
Right.
Much lower ticket price, if not free.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to a home haunt, it should be free. At least most places, you cannot charge for an event at your house.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes a business, and then you've got to follow different rules.
Then you've got permitting. Then you've got...
a lot of headache.
You've got to go through a lot of legal loopholes once you make it a business. And then you got the fire marshal. You got to get all the stuff that you do not have to do for a home haunt. So, yeah, if you're charging, you better be a full-fledged business. And in fact, one of the things we hear every so often is that in our neighborhood, there was another home haunt that was really popular, which is apparently right up on the corner of where we live. But the cops shut them down.
Yeah.
A, because they were opening like 6 weekends out of the year.
Yeah, they were working.
They weren't just Halloween weekend.
No.
And second, is they were charging admission. Admittedly, it was only a few bucks. It was like $2 or something. But the mere fact money changed hands meant there was a right to shut it down.
Yeah, and it was had to pay, not a
not a suggested
not a
donation or even a suggested donation.
Yeah.
This was a ticket. This was a sale of a ticket.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can see how that happened because New Orleans wants their cut of that money.
Yeah.
And they can't get that if you're not running it like an actual goddamn business.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, they're much lower in ticket price. Usually they're smaller attractions, both in terms of the size of the haunt itself and the actors in it. And they often exist in community centers, homes, or strip malls, or tiny little things that are nestled in amongst, residential areas. These are very much community affairs.
Yeah.
But the problem is, while you have those two extremes pretty well thriving still, what you don't have is the haunts that go between them. The missing middle, as we're calling it. I mean, and there are exceptions to this. I want to be clear before we dive too deep into it. Some regions do seem to have a thriving middle tier.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed a fair amount of them in Chicago and Atlanta.
Right.
And part of that is that these are big enough cities to really support that, and they have a haunt culture of that. Because like some of the haunts we went to on the Haunt All Souls tour in Chicago probably would meet the classification of a middle tier haunt.
Yeah.
Like Dead Rising, I think would.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely not a home haunt or a small charity haunt. It's bigger than that, but it's also not going to be the next 13th Gate because it's in size.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a comment on quality at all. It's a comment on size. Or Hell's Gate.
Because you're in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, that's what we're shooting at here. And also we found a few like Freaks of Fear in Atlanta that I would definitely view the same way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But when we went to Houston, there were none.
No.
Everything was either big, giant, and ginormous and way overpriced.
Well, there was that one that was next to a fireworks stand.
Yeah, but even that one was still fairly big and fairly expensive.
Yes, yes. There were no cheap haunts in the Houston area. Yeah, we didn't go to northern Houston.
Yeah, and not our fault. We took advice from haunters and haunters hanging out elsewhere about where to go. Mm-hmm. So don't blame us too hard. And also we know for a fact that in southeast Louisiana and southern Louisiana broadly, we're not seeing a lot anymore. There used to be several. And in fact, when we went to the Houston trip, we learned after the fact that about half the haunts we could have theoretically hit in that trip had closed.
Yeah.
The year before, the year prior to that.
Right.
Basically, they got cut in that section from from 18 haunts to 9. And pretty much all middle tier haunts.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's what's so frustrating here. Is that seems to be where we're trending away.
Yeah, and I don't think we have any in the New Orleans area that are middle tier. Rise used to be that.
Yeah, they grew. We can talk about that in a minute, but yeah.
Yeah, they grew, and now they're no longer there.
They absolutely are not that now, and that's kind of the goal.
Yeah.
But
I know, we're getting there.
We're getting there. And that's kind of the goal there, is to get big. Mm-hmm. But yeah, a lot of these haunts just seem to not be able to make it. I mean, Chamber of Horrors haunt we've helped at before, closed.
Yeah.
And for reasons we'll get into in a little bit that are relevant to all haunts in this space and the size.
Right.
And like a couple on the North Shore that popped up have closed, unable to sustain being a middle tier professional haunted attraction.
Yeah.
So yeah, but here's the thing. I will admit that this is very much an intuition and personal experience thing, and that my sample size may be biased for one reason or another, but this seems to mesh with what I'm reading in haunter groups and from others in the industry. But I would love to show you some hard data here, or tell you about some hard data, but it's very difficult to get it, especially post-COVID. Yeah,
we're still waiting to find out how many haunts have closed in the past 2 years.
Yeah, we don't know.
Because we know it's more than 0.
We know someone knows, but that information has not come out publicly.
Yeah.
Someone undoubtedly knows. Someone's tracking this and knows. But we've not been able to access that information. Most of the data we have that's publicly available to us is now 6 or 7 years old. Yeah. It's 2015, 2016. And a lot of what seems like this middle tier apocalypse has been happening since then. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'd love to get more data. And if you know a place, or if you know of someone who can, Haunt Weekly and all those places, you know where to contact us. Get us in touch with them. I'd love to either have them on or at least be able to talk about what we learned.
Yeah.
So why is this happening? Well, the middle haunts are under the greatest pressure. Mm-hmm. The profit margins are always the thinnest. Mm-hmm. And if there even is a profit margin, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, most operators of these types of haunts have day jobs.
Yeah. And we've talked before, at all levels of haunting, many people still have day jobs, and the haunt is a secondary job. There are very few haunts that can support themselves and a staff and crew
year round.
Yeah.
There's very, very few. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, like we know how difficult that is.
Yeah.
And one of the things that seems to be very common is a lot of people get into building a haunt like this when they retire.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the time, they've got the income, and now they can do this.
Right.
That seems to be a thing a lot of haunters have done, is rather than go into a traditional retirement, start a haunt. But also, I'm looking at that going, but I'm going to be old.
Yeah, I'm looking at that going, I may, consult with a haunt or work for another one, but I'm not starting fresh.
Yeah, that's something that we've seen, though, and it's something that has happened. But yeah, most that own and operate them have secondary or primary jobs. And any cost that rises will hit them first, and that includes rent, materials, payroll, insurance, stuff for the haunt itself, props and whatnot, decorations. All of that will hit them first. Larger haunts are able to afford it pretty much outright.
Mm-hmm.
Middle tier haunts can afford it with great struggle, maybe. And lower end haunts aren't expected to have that. No, if you're a charity haunt, you're not paying rent. You're probably not paying anywhere near full price for your materials if you're smart.
Right. Well, if you're a charity haunt, you also get a lot of tax breaks.
Yeah.
And a lot of donations too. You can ask for donations and get a lot of materials free.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why there's that split there, because the bigger haunts can afford any speed bump.
Yeah.
Lower tier haunts, home haunts, and charity haunts, but especially charity haunts, have other buffers that keep them protected.
Yeah. I think the home haunt protection is that
we already know we're losing money, and we're just doing it small.
Yeah, you're small. You're not trying to scale up at that point.
We're doing what is expected of us at our tier.
Yeah.
And it doesn't require a lot of boo boxes or...
Or giant animatronics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of the things with Davey, we saw these giant animatronics that they'd acquired, and it's like, I have no idea where to even fit that fucker. I can't fit that sumbitch in the 3-dimensional space amount.
Yeah. So.
Pneumatics are huge.
Yeah.
They're big. Our haunt is tiny.
It is.
But yeah, you're also vulnerable to, since you're more likely to be in a city or a city-like place, you're more vulnerable to regulations, including fire marshal issues, rezoning, things like that. And yeah, I mean, if a fire marshal decides, his girlfriend broke up with him last night or whatever, and he's going to fuck with your haunt the next day, you probably don't have the money to make the required fixes. So that can be a problem. And we have seen that because I know for a fact that in Orleans Parish, fire marshals for haunted attractions, super strict, super anal. You've got to do everything. Apparently, though, in the river parishes, the fire marshal inspection's a goddamn joke.
Yeah. But
I don't remember which parish it was, but it was a goddamn joke. Nothing was really checked. And so, yeah. But these mid-tier haunts tend to be more city center based or more town center based. Right. So that brings that extra regulation. They're also less likely to own the building they're in. And this is a big one. This is one I see that kills haunts all the time.
Yeah, this is actually how, as you were alluding to earlier, Chamber of Horrors, the reason they closed this last time is because the landlord said lease is terminated out of the blue, very little time to get out, and they lost a lot of stuff, had to just throw it away. Those things that they couldn't move in 2 days.
Yeah, and they didn't have enough storage elsewhere for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they got the rug pulled from them, pretty much. That's the only way to think of it. Lease terminations happen out of the blue, rising rents, and restrictions on how to use the property can be crippling here. I think one thing that may actually be helping with this is the retail apocalypse, or whatever it is. That is making it so that a fair amount of commercially zoned large buildings are becoming available. I mean, we make the jokes about how, what is spirit other than the ghost of a dead Toys R Us.
Yeah.
But I think this could be a haunted attraction thing more broadly, too.
Yeah.
Where haunts step into these spaces at least for a couple months out of the year. I think it really could be a thing.
Yeah.
So maybe we will see how that goes. But yeah. And also issues with the local community are important because, once again, closer to community centers typically, new conflicts can happen. It doesn't really matter how well behaved the haunt is.
Mm-hmm.
If you have zoning, parking, noise ordinance, or other issues, your location, your locale can make your life hell.
Mm-hmm.
And
and even if you build, a good relationship with your community, they could turn on you at any minute.
Well, and it might not even be that the community turns on you.
Right, it could be just one person with a loud voice.
What if, you got in good with the mayor and the city council, and then there was an election, and all those people are gone, and the new people, even though you've done everything asked of you, just want you gone.
No.
You're the devil's house or whatever. They want you gone.
Yeah. Or you suddenly see a gigantic increase in traffic to your haunt. Now you're messing up roads.
Yeah. Things can change, pivot very quickly.
Yeah.
There. And of course, COVID didn't help anything.
No.
COVID really didn't help. The cost for haunts to be COVID compliant was really high.
Mm-hmm.
And also combine that with the fact many haunts had to limit throughput.
Right.
So they're making less money. They're spending more.
Mm-hmm.
Even haunts that did huge business still struggled to make money. Even haunts that were sold out still struggled to turn a profit. In fact, I read about one haunt that had a record year during COVID, which I don't understand how you're having a record year during a time of social distancing. But deal with that one later.
Yeah.
But they had a record year, but they lost money because their COVID mitigation was so expensive that even with a gangbuster banner year, they were still in the red.
Yeah.
So even haunts that do incredible levels of business in a pandemic, and probably an unethical amount of business, still struggle to turn a profit because of the required mitigations. Mm-hmm. So basically the cost of operating a pro haunt is rapidly rising. Small haunts have less to absorb those costs with. It's that simple. And for most, it's not the primary source of income.
Right.
So if it's not making the money, they're stressing out over it, they're losing their shit, they can walk away. They can go back to insert day job here and lead a full and happy life and maybe just decorate their yard at Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, I will tell you that doesn't work. At least for me, that doesn't work because we did just a yard display last year and it was not the same.
No.
Yeah.
And the bad part is we did, I thought, a really good yard display, a really fun one.
Yeah.
And then we had to take it, well, that was 2020. We had to take it down urgently.
Yeah.
Because of, it wasn't Ida.
No.
What was the hurricane?
Zeta.
Zeta.
Yeah.
Hurricane Zeta was going to, so 2020, we had a neat yard display. Really cool, but had to take it down about 4 days before anything. Yeah. Anyway, so basically, that's the issue. The cost, the expense, and all the headache of running a professional haunt is constantly going up. And when you're a haunt already on the margins, it's just too much.
It is.
But this middle tier is so important. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things that's going to hurt the charity haunts and other middle tier haunts is the rising cost of employment.
Yeah.
Of hiring people.
Yeah.
Because with the minimum wage going up in many states, as we talked about a few episodes ago, that's going to have an impact.
Yeah, I think 28 states raised their minimum wage.
Yeah. Something
like the 2029, something like that. So, that's a big deal. If you're, if you employ people, if you pay people, like charity haunts can get away with not paying people their charity. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times people will do it just for charity. This is their way of giving back. But if you're a haunt that pays actors, including professional mid-tier haunt should, that's going to sting more. Mm-hmm. Because in some cases, your cost, your payroll budget could go basically double. Yeah. That means you either got to hire half as many people or absorb some additional money there that's going the wrong way. Yeah. Well, not the wrong way, but, leaving your hands. Mm-hmm. But the middle tier is super important. And for customers, it's often their second haunted attraction experience. One of the reasons I was so happy to pair this episode with the question of the week was what you learn quickly is that a lot of people had their first haunted attraction experiences either in fairs and carnivals where they were there for another reason, but went to a haunted house.
Yeah.
And made memories there. Like the dark ride at the pavilion, magic, blah, 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 blah. Haunted Mansion at Disney.
The Fall Festival.
At
an elementary school.
Exactly, all that stuff. You're there for another reason. You just happen to go to haunt. But those that didn't do that, oftentimes went to a home haunt or a charity haunt first, got a little taste of the flavor, and then decided to hit up their local mid-tier haunt and check that out, because basically it's less expensive, it's usually closer, and basically it's less risk for a customer that doesn't really kind of know what they want.
Yeah, or if they miss that lower tier experience, but their friend didn't, and they want to go to the next size up, they're going to drag their friends along.
Yeah, and so basically, this is the place the customers sort of get deeper into, because it is a big leap between going to, like, say, Bernie Baxter's home haunt and then going to, say, the 13th Gate.
Yeah.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah.
In every way.
Or even, Mortuary or New Orleans Nightmare. Yeah. I'm going to throw Rise in there because they're the only ones that haven't been listed yet. But
Rise
even in the city limits, just... from Bernie Baxter to Mortuary is a big leap.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. And this is also a big leap for haunters. Because for many haunters that want to go from running a home haunt or a home display to opening up a professional home haunt, this is where they need to start, is this middle tier. They can't make the leap all the way from garage haunt to 20,000 plus square foot mega haunt,
Yeah.
With giant budgets.
Well, I mean, that kind of happened to us, because we went from a tiny, tiny porch to a garage, and we couldn't fill the garage the first year.
No. We had no idea.
If we had to go from a garage to a 20,000 square foot haunt, there's no way we could fill that the first year.
Yeah, we would have to bring in help.
Yeah.
Some big help.
Exactly.
It's a big leap. And so what happens is and this is something that the 13th Gate story works like this.
Yeah.
Where they started out in a high school gym, did a mid-tier haunt, and then became the 13th fucking Gate.
Yeah.
And we found out that was very much a story for Rise, too. They started out, they had only 2 makeup chairs.
Yeah.
Now they have a dozen.
Yeah.
They had like 30 actors the first year they were open.
It was friends and family working.
Yeah, it was all friends and family, no employees, basically.
Yeah.
They went from that to, I think he said 200, in the hundreds, basically. Yeah. Hundreds of actors.
Yeah.
Many humans were participating in this.
That are being paid, and,
So, but
happy for their success.
But could that have worked if he didn't have that middle tier? If he didn't start there, could it have become what it is today and what is going to be in the near future?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Because I don't even think, as crazy as Davey is and as determined as that man is, even I don't think he can make the jump straight from, say, a garage haunt to where he is today.
Yeah.
I don't think he could do it. I think that's physically impossible for all but the wealthiest.
No.
And so, you need this tier. This is how you get new mega haunts, basically, is what I'm saying, is you have a healthy middle class.
Yes. And you have healthy expectations of when you go pro.
But basically, these are the budget and time-friendly options. The middle tier is for both haunters and for customers that want to go to a pro haunt or want to operate a pro haunt, but aren't ready or aren't able to make the jump all the way to the top tier, the biggest tier. And also the mid tier, and this is something we don't think about a lot. I truly believe that creativity in haunted attractions are driven primarily by the home haunters and the mid tier haunters.
Yeah.
Because they have the lowest risk on trying stupid, wacky shit.
Yeah.
If we get a stupid idea and we determine it's safe and could work, and it's like, for us, it's probably $200 and a trip to Home Depot to make it happen.
Or less, yeah.
Or just set up what we have now. Get our scrap wood out, it's no risk.
Right.
It's no risk, and mid-tier haunts have the same thing. A major mega haunt, big risk. If something goes sideways with this, it could be dangerous and deadly for your brand. Like us, Yeah, we'll just fling spaghetti at the fucking wall till we see what sticks. We'll do this all haunt season, baby. We're just throwing it on there.
Yeah, I'm halfway tempted to bring back the falling wall this year because that was fun.
It was. But yeah, that's the thing, though. It's like we can do crazy, impulsive shit that larger haunts probably can't, or at least not as easily.
Mm-hmm.
We can just fly off whatever whim entertains us in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, there's just so much less risk. And it's also, and I think, to me personally, it is a unique style and flavor of haunting that is really difficult, if not impossible, to replicate on a larger scale.
Yeah.
I mean, I admit it, okay? I love my small to medium-sized pro haunts. I love my bite-sized haunts.
Mm-hmm.
And I love them not being super expensive. Not, you know what I mean? Not being perfect.
Yeah.
I love seeing the passion behind the people that worked on it.
Right.
More than the money that went into it.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the problems we had with Mortuary way back in the beginning. Was it was clear they put a lot of money into it.
Mm-hmm.
They had like the entire contents of the goddamn Fright Props catalog. But it didn't feel, you didn't feel the passion. Now they've changed that. That has shifted.
Yeah, they're working differently now.
They're working very differently. I don't know if anyone on that first year still is there even.
I think they are.
Okay, but that first year, you could tell that they had bought a lot of stuff, and they were excited about it, and they were proud of what they built, and they should have been. But it didn't. I think it was because it was their first year. They hadn't had a chance to put the passion and love in.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
Well, and I don't know how much experience they had with haunting before they opened for their first year.
But, I don't want to see your money in the haunt. I want to see your passion, your love. I don't care if that brick wall looks a little janky because, it's foam that was loosely carved. Mm-hmm. I like that shit. I love it. So, it's a unique flavor you just can't replicate. So that's why the middle tier of haunting is doing what it's doing and why we have to find a way to protect it.
Yeah.
We really, really do. And I don't know the answer personally to this because this seems to be a problem not just with haunting, but with a lot of industries where everything is gravitating toward either, super big, super commercial, or super, I guess, artesian,
Yeah.
Where everything is super manufactured and super produced or it's very, very small and individualized.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. And I think that's an issue with the economy in general. And I really do want to see more haunts of this size and scope. And I'm hoping, perhaps naively, that maybe now, once again, knock on wood, that COVID is done, that maybe we'll see some new haunts in that space pop up.
Yeah.
Just a thought. But here's the thing. And this is playing to the original question a little bit here. It's not just the haunts themselves. It's also the haunt vendors. Mm-hmm. Where are your middle tier haunt vendors? Yeah.
Because, I would like to find them.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that the haunt industry does poorly in general, is advertise our unique selling aspects.
Yeah, USP.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Because the thing about it, like, when you think about haunt props or Halloween props or whatever, most are either targeted at purely home users. Think your Spirit Halloween. Think of most of what's on sale at Home Depot.
Yeah, and, any department store, basically.
Yeah. Or there's stuff targeted at super high-end haunts, like that multi-$1,000 props at Fright Props, you see.
Yeah, or the 20-foot props. They're gorgeous, but I'm not fitting that in my garage.
There's no Ryobi, of this. There's no prosumer brand, really. The only thing I could think of that felt prosumer to me was the 12-foot skeletons at Home Depot, which, by the way, apparently are back on the website. I'd read that somewhere, but I've not checked for myself. But yeah, because they're about $300. They're not an everyday Halloween purchase. Your mom and pop ain't gonna buy it.
No.
But, how many Spirit animatronics have we acquired one way or another? I think we only actually bought 2. But I know we've acquired others.
Yeah.
Through means not of our own choice.
Right.
How many of them work consistently? I think the two we bought still work. Fred and Wilma still work.
Mm-hmm.
Last I checked. But they were in a very different era.
Yeah.
I think that was 2006, 2007 Spirit.
Yeah, I think it's 2006. I think you're right.
Because I remember your mom got them for us because she's the master of waiting in lines.
Yeah.
She can wait in line like no one else.
Mm-hmm.
She has a whole career in this if she wants it.
Yeah.
She could be the person to rock up to the Apple store when the new iPhone's dropping by. You know what I mean? Buy a new iPhone. There's got to be a career in this for her. But we had her stand in line at Spirit on November 1st to get them for us, and we paid her plus a little bit extra. And they still work, but yeah, modern ones,
It was 2005. And you know how I know? Because there was not a Halloween store in New Orleans. That's why we had her go.
That's right. She's in the upstate. So yeah, good point. 2005. But those props were built very differently and sold very differently.
Yeah.
And Spirit props actually had at least a little bit of longevity. I'm not saying they'd survive a full season in a regular haunted attraction. I know they won't. But they've survived, 17 years of very, very light use and just fucking around with us. So
Yeah.
I got Fred in my back behind me now.
Yeah.
And he still looks good and still works when he's plugged in. His internal battery thing is dead, but that's just batteries.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we don't really have that prosumer space, and it hasn't really existed since about 2005.
Yeah. If you sell costumes for under $100, if you are able to make them cheaply, I'm not saying that you should not be paid for your time.
Yeah.
That is not what I'm saying. I don't want to get it twisted.
Yeah, God, no. And that's just it. None of this is meant to be a knock at Fright Props at all. I want to be very clear.
No.
We love their work. They're worth every penny, is my understanding. Everything I've ever heard about their stuff has been stellar. I have nothing bad to say about Fright Props personally. The handful of things I have bought from them, smaller stuff, I've enjoyed and loved. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're fine. But there is a need for slightly cheaper, slightly lower quality. Mm-hmm. Not sinking all the way to Spirit level. I am trying to knock on Spirit.
Yeah, I know.
Get that one to your fucking head. I'm trying to knock on Spirit. I'm not trying to knock on Fright Props.
Right.
This is not a diss on anyone in the industry other than Spirit. They can take it as a diss all they want.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
They don't make their props.
No, they don't. Yeah, they don't make their props. They get them from
somewhere else.
Some shitty factory overseas. I don't know where.
Anyway.
But we need something in that gap.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that's so frustrating, part of this is because, and we know this for a fact, especially when you deal with animatronic props, a lot of it's the cost of moving up to pneumatics.
Right.
Now, pneumatics, as far as getting set up with them, is not that bad or that crazy. You need a tank, you need the hoses. Mm-hmm. And we've actually looked into it, and it's something that's even within our budget, pretty easily, actually.
Yeah, and the bigger yard displays and things in the area, and I think this is true more broadly than just the New Orleans area. The people putting on those or home haunts do have a little bit of extra money to put into it, more than you would probably think.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah, but yeah, basically when you make the step up to pneumatics, that's a big leap in cost over electric motors. Which are where cheaper props usually go wrong and die as the motors burn out. If you've got a prop with 3 or 4 motors in it to make its animations, if just one of the motors goes out, the whole thing's fucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of the building kits, which are pretty cool, and I've seen those on Fright Props, there's not really much for mid-tier haunters, especially those that really don't want to get their hands dirty too much, or aren't really comfortable working with pneumatics or electronics. We're 2x4 technology here. We try to limit our involvement with more advanced tech. We're like the kids next door. But yeah, so outside of that, but now, and basically, this is why you hear those mid-tier haunts. They're usually hardcore DIY until they reach some kind of threshold where they feel comfortable buying the super expensive props.
Right.
And there's a breakthrough moment there where they've made enough money and they're comfortable enough in their revenue that they'll invest thousands of dollars in a single prop.
Yeah.
And not one they picked off of Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Craigslist, or wherever the fucking place is now. Yeah, but that's why they start at most of those haunts start out hardcore DIY, is because there's nothing at that prosumer or nothing between the spirit props and the high-end props. Not very much anyway. Now, there are some areas that do. Masks and costumes. You can actually find some mid-tier masks. In fact, the DOA mask that I have, I would describe as a mid-tier.
Yeah, I would like to find a mid-tier sock mask of an old man for you. Because the sock masks are, from what I've heard, they're easier for the actor.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, that exists. Maybe not as well. I mean, but there are at least products in the gap between CFX and high-end latex masks and shit you find at Walmart. Yeah. There's at least some offerings in that range.
Yeah.
And that includes costumes too. Electronics also have good mid-tier, Boo Boxes, Raspberry Pis. A lot of that, though, comes from the outside of the tech industry, not from within the haunt industry, but it exists.
Right. And recently the past few years, I've been watching the Black Friday sales at some of the bigger places. Because, if it's on sale for 25% off, I might be able to afford that.
Yeah. And also sound and security stuff. There's good middle tier stuff there, too. Yeah. But once again, that comes from outside our industry, not within.
Yeah.
But basically animatronics, static props, facades. Like if you want a facade, you either have to go to one of those companies at Transworld that charges, that's going to be very expensive for obvious reasons. It's great quality. Or you can pick up the little cardboard piece of shit from Spirit when they close down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most people who have facades at their home haunt build it themselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but there are places, theoretically, that will sell you a facade. But once again, it's either super high-end or super, we got rained on, it's dead. Yeah. So, yeah, all that stuff, it either comes out stupid cheap or stupid expensive. And, yeah, the stupid expensive stuff is usually very much worth it. Once again, not knocking any of these companies for selling products at the correct value. Trust me. But I am saying there is a need and a desire and probably a hunger for stuff that's more affordable, even if the quality is not on par. And
it may be that it's out there and we just don't know about it.
Yeah, that could be it. So if we don't know about it, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. And also, somebody get on making a guide to where to find it.
Yeah.
Like, just a resource somewhere so that we can just have it.
Yeah, the only way I've been able to get good props and good things at what I would think of as a prosumer price has been to buy used. Yeah. Haunted swap meets, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, things like that. I've had some luck with that in the past, or garage sales too have also been good for me.
Yeah.
Every time there's a garage sale in the neighborhood, we're usually there.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that is you. Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like there's a gap here in terms of Halloween stuff in general that I think there is a market for, especially with so many families going big on Halloween every year now. It's becoming a very, very popular thing, and relatively wealthy, affluent families too doing it. They can afford something more than a $9 Walmart mask.
They can.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they might not want to drop the money required for like a CFX mask either. They might not be comfortable with that. Right. We need more options. Well, anyways, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Good episode. I think we made our point. Pat on the back, jerk myself off, the usual routine after the podcast. Anyways, seriously though, thank you very much for spending the past hour with us as I completely break Crystal and she's trying not to fall apart. But yes, indeed. Thank you for spending the past hour with us as we talk about this. And if you do know where these products and these haunts are, let us know. HauntWeekly.com, Haunt Weekly on Twitter, Haunt Weekly on Facebook, and YouTube.com/HauntWeekly. Also catch us wherever you get your podcast. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, blah, 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 blah. You know where you get your podcast from. Why am I telling you? But until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And we will see you next week with episode 336, which is divisible by 4. Therefore, it will be time to do the news. See y'all then.